Well, hello, and welcome to day 25 of NTI experience. I don't know. Today's lesson 34. I can subtract mixed numbers. Example, 3 and 5/8 minus 2 and 6/8. This is a lot like what we've done the past few days when we've been subtracting fractions and adding fractions. The thing I've told you before, don't worry about the instructions. I'm going to scribble out some instructions on here. I'm going to kind of give you some steps. This is just really just a little bit more about what we did on Friday. It's not going to be that difficult. So, with that, we're going to have there's Fred. Fred's walking around here. There he is. And he's going to probably join us for a little bit. And then, in just a second, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it. I'm going to work through problems 1 and 2 on the guided practice. Just everything on the front side of the guided practice. The rest of it, you'll be on your own. You can just do the steps I've shown you. I'm going to try and show you the most basic steps, and we'll solve these problems, and you'll be done. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to look at problem 1A on the guided practice. Like I said, we're going to do problems 1 and 2, or 1A, B, and C, and 2A and B on the guided practice, and then you'll be able to go. But before we solve problem 1A, what you see is we've got a mixed number, and we're subtracting a fraction. Well, we did this 2 lessons ago. Well, what I would like to do here is we could just do the Mad Cowboy way, but I want to show you something else about this. Let's look at my whole number, 4, right here. And 4 is the same thing as 3 and 1, right? 3 plus 1 is 4. But we also know that this 1 whole is the same thing as, well, how many thirds? 3 thirds. So this thing is 3 and 3/3 plus 1/3 minus my 2/3. Well, let's add my 3/3 and my 1/3 together, and that leaves me with 3 and 4/3 minus my 2/3. And if you look on your math, on the guided practice, you'll see how they got to this little thing right here. Well, now once I've got this 3 and 4/3 minus 2/3, I just subtract my, I've already got my, I subtract my fractions. Well, I don't have any whole numbers to subtract, so that's going to be 3. And what is 4/3 minus 2/3? Well, that's just going to be 3 and 2/3. That's what I did. I'm going to go below this. I'll do B. B says 5 and 2/4 minus 3/4. So 5 and 2/4 minus 3/4. Well, the first thing I need to do when I'm subtracting fractions, mixed numbers, is subtract my whole numbers. Well, I have a whole number here, but I don't over here. So, but I do know that this fraction is larger than that fraction. So what I should do is, let's just go ahead and break this down, that 5 into, well, just subtract, 5 is the same thing as 4 plus 1. I've still got my 2/4 here. And we know 1 whole, how many fourths are in 1 whole? Let's go ahead and erase that. And so put 4/4. So now I have 4 and 4/4 plus 2/4. Well, that's the same thing as 4 and 6/4. And now I'm just going to bring this fraction on down to subtract. So that's this 5 and 2/4 is the exact same thing as 4 and 6/4 minus my 3/4. And now, once again, to subtract my whole numbers. Well, I don't have a whole number here, so that leaves me with the 4 right there. And 6/4 minus 3/4 is going to leave me with 3/4. So my answer is going to be 4 and 3/4. Shouldn't be too bad. Just remember, I just took my whole number. I took 1 away from it. So 5 is the same thing as 4 plus 1. But then I put that 1 whole into fourths, and then I added that fraction that was with it as a mixed number. Let's go ahead and erase this. And let's go ahead and let's solve problem 1C. Well, problem 1C says 8 and 3/5 minus 4/5. This is C. 8 and 3/5 minus 4/5. Once again, I'm going to look at this whole number right here because I don't have a whole number here. And if I take 1 whole away from that, that's going to leave me with 7. And that 1 whole, I can't just throw it away. I've got to do something with it. So I'm going to put that 1 whole into fifths. Well, how many fifths are in 1 whole? Well, that's 5 fifths. So 7 and 5 fifths is the same thing as 8 wholes. But I've still got this 3 fifths here. So 7 and 5 fifths plus 3 fifths is going to be the same thing as 7 and 8 fifths. Now I take my 4 fifths and I just subtract my 4 fifths from my 8 fifths. And that will leave me with 7 and 8 fifths minus 4 fifths equals, well, I don't have a whole number to subtract, so 7, and we know it's in fifths. 8 minus 4 is 4, and 7 and 4 fifths is my answer. That's how they want you to do problems 1A, B, and C on your homework. And that is actually, this method right here is actually your second step when you start to solve the other ones. Let's go ahead and solve problems 2A and B. 2A. Now, if you look at the instructions on 2A, they've got to subtract the ones first, which that is absolutely correct. You can circle that if you want. And that's what they did here in this spot right there. That's how they got to this problem. But let's just go ahead and let's work this out on my whiteboard so you can see it better. 2A says 3 1/4, 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Well, you know those instructions said to subtract my whole number first. So they want me to subtract this 1 from this 3. Well, what is 3 minus 1? Well, that's going to leave me with 2. And now I've got 2 1/4 minus, well, that's already gone, 3/4. Now, this should look a lot like a problem we just did up there on the top. We did we've got this. So now what I need to do is I'm going to take one of these away. So 2 is the same thing as 1. And 1 plus 1 whole, or how many fourths? 1 4/4. That's 1 whole and that's 1 whole. And that 1 plus 1 is 2. And I've got that 1/4 right here. And we know that 1, I'll put that plus sign there. And now if I just add these two fractions, that's going to leave me with 1 4/4 plus 1/4 is 5/4. Now I can subtract that 3/4. And 1 5/4 minus 3/4 is going to leave me with 1 because there's no whole number to subtract now. 5 minus 3 is 2/4. 1 2/4. There we go. Let's do 2B. Or not 2B. Actually, we'll do 2B. Shakespeare reference. We've got 4 2/5 minus 1 3/5. 4 2/5 minus 1 3/5. First thing they do, they say in your instructions, subtract your whole numbers first. So I'm going to subtract 4 minus this 1, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So that leaves me with 3 2/5 minus 3/5. Well, this fraction is larger than 3/5 is larger than 2/5, so I've got to kind of borrow from this 3 wholes. So that's going to leave me with, take 1 whole away from that 2, and how many fifths? 5/5 plus my 2/5. And 5/5 plus 2/5 is the same thing as 2 7/5. 2 7/5 minus 3/5. Well, do I have a whole number to subtract here? No, there's nothing there. Oops, let me put that there. So that's going to leave that, the whole number is going to be left alone, and 7/5 minus 3/5 is 4/5. So there's your answer. That's 2B. But I showed some people on our Zoom session the other day another way. So I kind of lied. I'm going to do one more problem. I'm going to do it the exact same way we did on Friday, which is the double mad cowboy way. Because remember, I always say there's many paths lead to the same answer. I'm going to go ahead and look at 2C, and this will be our last problem for today. 2C. 5 and 2, 6. 5 and 2, 6 minus 3 and 5, 6. 3 and 5, 6. Well, the double mad cowboy way means all I have to do is I can say this. Let's just go ahead and get mad at both of these. So to get mad at 6 times 5 is 30. And 30 plus 2, because I've got to add. 30 plus 2 is 32. My denominator stays the same. Minus, let's do this again. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 5 is 23. Denominator stays the same. So now I have 32 6 minus 23 6. And that's going to leave me with, that leaves me with 9. 32 minus 23 is going to be 9, 6. And now I just have to do the cowboy way to make this into a mixed number. And 9 goes in the house, 6 is out here, 6 goes in there one time. 1 times 6 is 6. Leaves me with a 3. There's my whole number, numerator, denominator. So it's going to equal 1 and 3, 6. There's so many different ways you can solve this. One thing I also might suggest, you could have also just subtracted your whole numbers first too. Well, those are the ways to solve that. If you have any questions, please send me a message. Send me a message on Class Tag, on Class Dojo. You can email me. Do whatever you need to do. But you get hold of me. But really, I said, just work these one either way you would like. But really, what it comes down to it, like I said, the directions. One part says solve using any strategy. Just solve these problems like we've done. These problems are all the same thing as we've done the past few days. They're just more and more practice. On that note, you'll have a great day, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.